What's up? Okay, we had some technical difficulties. It's been a long day, man. It's been a long day. Too long of a day. So, all right. How is everybody doing tonight? Hopefully, everybody will migrate over to this version of the video. Um, so we'll wait a couple of seconds. But the topics today, for those of you who are going to be watching this on replay, um, Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly doing kinky stuff on Impact. We're going to go through the John Moxley blood article. We're going to talk about LA Knight and his response to people saying he's like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. We're also going to look at what the UK government has replied to John Cena. So we'll be looking at them and all of that tonight. And the plan was to do a stream that was about 2 hours, but since it started 15 minutes late, it'll probably be like an hour and 15 minutes. But we're definitely going to get involved here, and we're not going to leave anything out. We're not going to leave anything behind. Yes, I know about the Ryback and the ringside news situation. I have been following it to a degree, not as much as most people would want me to, because I don't like ringside news or Ryback. But we will talk about it a little bit because that drunk guy who runs Ringside News has been doing like Twitter spaces ranting about Ryback, and it's been pretty funny. So, as a matter of fact, I think we will get into that. I was going to do a separate video on it, but it's not worth it. Let's just do it here. We'll do it deep into this episode, so people will have a reason to stick around. So we're going to talk about Impact, the kinky angle they did. We're also going to talk about them doing a Pride night. Then we're going to talk about John Cena, the UK government, WrestleMania in London. Then LA Knight. We're going to talk about LA Knight and his response to people saying that he's like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then maybe at the very end, we'll get into ringside news and Ryback. How about it? All right. Let's start with Impact. So 145,000 people watched Impact Wrestling on June 29th last week, which was their largest audience in a really, really, really long time. One of the reasons for that has been the floating around of the video of Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly. Now, I know it probably wasn't the most viewed thing because they have been doing stuff leading up to that. And all the rest of the show was actually pretty good too. I'm not going to hold you up. That episode of Impact was probably the best episode of Impact that they have had, like the single best episode in a really long time. It featured Joe Hendry making fun of Kenny King for being a stripper. It had this wonderful, hilarious Dirty Dango promo where he was making fun of Santino Marella and asking him if his daughter is getting slapped around in developmental like he did. It was an amazing episode. Like the in-ring stuff, forget about it. But the angles were really good. Nick Aldis trying to explain why he turned heel. And it basically became Alex Shelley is the forefather for all the garbage wrestlers that we have today, like the Young Bucks and all those guys. And that style of wrestler is trying to run off his style of wrestler. And they basically taken an AEW angle and running it in Impact, where Nick Aldis like represents like an older school traditional pro wrestling, while Alex Shelley represents, even though he's older than the Young Bucks, we're probably in the same age bracket, he represents that sort of style of pro wrestling. And it's all very interesting. But of course, the gem of the show was Kylan King versus Masha Slamovich in a match. And in that match, Masha Slamovich won. She won the match. It was a really good match too. After the match, Taylor Wilde and Kylan King jumped Masha, and she was saved by Killer Kelly. And Killer Kelly is still wearing the dog collar from their dog collar match, because Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly had a dog collar match. At that point, she gets in the ring. She helps fight off the other two girls. And Masha Slamovich starts like grabbing the chain and just like really aggressively snatching the chain around Killer Kelly's neck. And then she takes the other end of the chain and wraps it around her own neck. And it's a very dom sub relationship that they got going on here in Impact. And I'm telling you, a lot of people are tweaking over it. Like there's a lot of people tweaking off this joint. You know what I'm saying? What up, Top Dog? How you doing, man? So, uh, so here's some of the responses. I don't want to do a full segment on here, but somebody said the kinkiest tag team in wrestling need a Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly collab on Masha's OnlyFans ASAP. I didn't know Masha Slamovich had an OnlyFans. Should we go take a look? Shall we go take a look? This is one of those times where I wish I was like a better YouTuber who could like share his screen, because I want to go look at Masha Slamovich's OnlyFans. She's not very sexy, so I wonder what it looks like, but that's pretty much it. I have a general interest. Okay, she looks like she breaks bricks just in a bikini. How weird. Oh my goodness. She has a PO box in New York. Oof. Woof. All right. Okay. That's interesting. Masha Slamovich as an OnlyFans. That's interesting. Um, Killer Kelly when Masha Slamovich put that dog collar on her. What's she saying?
Something LGBT just happened to me just now. Like, I can't even make this shit up.
Oh my goodness, something LGBT. I think she wanted it to happen. She's been begging for it. Oh my goodness. Oh, buddy. Um, this 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 thing with this dog collar is pretty wild, bro. This dog collar business is pretty wild. Somebody just watched the Killer Kelly Masha Slamovich dog collar match from Against All Odds. Why, yes, that was incredibly gay and kinky. Glad we all noticed. It's Kelly's whole demeanor. She's just super sexy, so she just buys into and she like goes into this stuff. It definitely get everybody all riled up. Now people are super excited about this whole thing here. Am I the only one turned on by Killer Kelly being dragged around on a chain by Masha Slamovich? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think some people are a little too excited. This is this when the lust for violence turns to a lust for passion, a bond of mutual desire is formed that is near unbreakable. Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly are the unholy union we've been waiting for. She's from Portugal, I think. But she might just be like British or something too. um, hmm. Let's see. Only Impact could watch that Anthony Bowen segment and decide to take this shit back 20 years. Always decades behind. What the hell are you talking about? It's just women yanking each other's chains, bro. What, you a homophobe? You don't want to see lesbians yank each other's chains? You're not interested into BDSM? You're like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with these people, man? Uh, they are. This is a wild one, bro. This is a wild one. I don't know, but that wasn't it though. Like as much as uh, that whole thing caught my attention, I generally enjoyed the angle leading up to it too. So it wasn't like it came out of nowhere. You have to be following the product to know what was going on and what led to this whole thing. And I could tell you, it was pretty good. HLA is not dead. It ain't. It ain't. It's just taking a new form. You know, HLA ain't dead. These promoters just scared. It ain't dead. uh, very interesting. So we're also going to they're doing a Pride night, and by they I mean Impact. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. Also, this Ryback ringside news thing is pretty funny. We might actually get around to that. You know, just for the entertainment value. Oh no, ringside news went through and deleted all of their tweets about Ryback. Oh my goodness, these pieces of garbage. Oh man, we was gonna have some real fun with that one. Oh brother, did they delete the Twitter Spaces? I hope they didn't delete the Twitter Spaces. You know, it was that time of the month for Buddy to get drunk and rant on social media, but it seems like they deleted it. It seems like they deleted it, so I guess we won't be talking about it tonight. That sucks. That sucks, bro. Anyway, let's talk about Impact's Pride Night. Did you guys know about this? Um, she's Killer Kelly because her gimmick is femme fatale. Yeah, I mean, I think we all could put that together. You know, but she's so much better now than she was when she was in NXT UK, and she basically just looked like a Jobberillo. You know, I think she was still pretty young in the business at that point, but she was just basically used as a jobber in NXT UK, and it's that she was wrestling in England quite a bit, but she didn't have this sauce to her at the time. Like she didn't. She was different back then, but now she's got something going for her. You know, she's cooking. She's cooking now. Um. All right. So Impact Pride Night. July the 16th. So this is next week, I think. No, yeah, next week. No, 2 weeks. Week and a half. So they're going to have a Pride Night, and this is from Outsport. So this is a specifically gay version of like cage side seats or bloody elbow. So the what's it called? The Vox Media Empire, they have like a SJW version of everything. So their SJW version of MMA is Bloody Elbow. Their SJW Pro Wrestling thing is Cage Side Seats. Their SJW Sports thing is Out Sports. And I choose to use this for a specific reason because I think if you're going to listen, if you're going to get some information about gays, you should get it from the gays. So this is their thing. Impact Wrestling to host major televised pro wrestling's first Pride Night, July 16th in Windsor, Ontario, if you want to attend. Pride Nights are a wonderful way sports teams and organizations have celebrated the gay, lesbian, bi, trans, and queer community and welcome LGBTQ fans with enriching and empowering environments. Now Impact Wrestling is joining the party. Didn't the Dodgers just have a Pride Night where they brought in all of these weirdo satanic nuns or something crazy like that? Ain't that what ain't that didn't that just happen? And the, and the arena was virtually empty. Uh, I think Pride nights for like sports teams and stuff is like a no go. You know what I mean? I don't see why you would have a Pride night as a sports team. You know, identity is the antithesis of sports. Sports is about athletic achievement, not about who you fucking. So you shouldn't have any type of night unless it's about celebrating the best athletes. You know, celebrating athletes for just existing seems a little narcissistic to me. Bro, it's not even about June. June is just a month we put aside for them. It's gay day every day, bro. It's gay day every single day. I learned that growing up. You ain't just got to learn Black history in February, which is right. It's absolutely true. Likewise, it don't got to be June to do a Pride night. These people are. That's what these people do, man. But it says in Windsor, Ontario, on July 16th, Impact will host its first Pride night. The event makes Impact the first major televised pro wrestling promotion ever to host a Pride night and follows the release of the company's first Pride photo shoot earlier this month. Ooh, Pride photo shoot. uh, Impact Pride Night will be held as part of this Slammiversary Fallout event one day after its annual anniversary pay-per-view event Slammiversary. According to Impact, the pro wrestling company will partner with Windsor Essex Pride Fest for the event and is offering a Pride ticket package that includes a private post-show meet and greet without LGBTQ Impact wrestlers Giselle Shaw and Jay Vidal. Impact will donate a portion of all ticket sales to the Trevor Project. Shaw has also been named as the ambassador of Pride for the Windsor Essex Pride Fest, alongside fitness expert, the Amazing Race Canada winner Craig Ramsey. Celebrating diversity is based on the notion that everyone has value, no matter how different anyone might appear to anyone else. Craig and Giselle are inspiring in how they each champion this belief, said Windsor Essex Pride Fest David Lentz. These people are just celebrating anything. It's celebrating diversity. What? Okay. Impact's decision follows the growth of Pride-focused wrestling events throughout independent wrestling over the better part of the last decade, including Game Changers Wrestling's Effie's Big Gay Brunch events and multiple events held by the now defunct Pro Wrestling Vibe. So it says most major televised wrestling promotions, including WWE and AEW, have embraced the LGBTQ community to varying degrees during Pride Month in recent years, mostly manifesting through Pride merchandise and photo shoots. Impact will now take that one step further outside of the month and in front of their TV cameras. Well, if you can't sell tickets, what you do is you do gimmicks. It's not going to be more people there than there was before, I can tell you that. To celebrate Pride Month, which was last month, they put on a Impact Pride shirt to give money to an organization I've never heard of, the North American Gay Amateur Athletic Alliance. Naga. Naga. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. An international sports organization dedicated to providing opportunity and access for the LGBTQ and organized softball competition in safe environments. Oh, well, you can't play baseball with everybody else. You got to play softball in a safe environment. Wouldn't want you to get your feathers ruffled. You need a safe environment. Just go play baseball with everybody else. God, what the hell is wrong with these kids? Why are these kids like this? Who raised them to be this way? They're so fragile. Ugh. I wouldn't even want to be that way if I was a kid, man. You got to have everything catering to you. There's no challenge to life. Everything has to be a safe space. There's no danger. No adversity. How the hell are you going to ever build a character? What character building are you going to even do in life? You know, we keep we end up with these gay wizards, man. These people who think they're special just by existing because they happen to, do stuff with the same sex. How about no? How about no? You're not special. Look, if Impact want to have a pride event, they can do their thing. I do not care. I will say this though, it's just a gimmick. But then again, the organization is Canadian. So am I really surprised that this Canadian organization is as woke and dumb as it appears to be? Impact has always prided itself on being a woke, dumb company. Oh, we were the one who took wrestling first. It's like, oh yeah, sure. Um, we took care of our female wrestlers first. We were the starters of the women's revolution. The beautiful people were like half naked every fucking week. Like that's the weird thing to me. Like everybody always talks about how the what the fuck the knockouts era. Oh, the knockouts. Yeah, they were. It was Awesome Kong and it was Gail Kim and it was like yeah, and it was Miss Tessmacher who titties was bigger than everybody's because they were obviously not real. Like every chick had like huge breasts, and part of their gimmick involved being half naked. Um, so as much as shit as they give the divas, the people who was drawing the ratings for Impact during their knockouts era were the beautiful people who were doing basically sexualized divas gimmicks. So much so that then they started claiming that WWE was ripping off the beautiful people when they started doing Lay Cool, right? They claimed that Lay Cool was a ripoff. Hmm. Well, it's a very weird. It's a different world now than it was then. All the women are frumpy now. They wear complete total body suits. They wear bikinis for their OnlyFans, but you have to pay for it, as if you actually care so much about a women's wrestler that you want to see her in a bikini. Man, when you got Nikita Lyons out here posting uh, beach pics for free, I'm just saying, like, why would I pay to see any of these bodysuit broads when Nikita Lyons is giving out the goods for free? Like she posted a montage video of her at the beach, like playing in the water and everything, bro. I was like, oof. I just started hearing Stevie Wonder in the back of my mind. I was like, boy, boy. Lake, how was Lake Cool a ripoff of the beautiful people? That's what I want to know because it was two women. They created the two woman group. If you look at the two groups, they weren't even in any way the same. The beautiful people again were Velvet Sky and Angelina Love, two Botoxed up, big tittied chicks who barely wrestled. Neither one of them had really an athletic physique or anything to that effect. Compare that to Lay Cool. Now Lay Cool, Layla came from Extreme Expose, which is basically the Nitro girls for ECW. But when you look at Michelle McCool, she was athletically built. She she wasn't like a supermodel or anything like that. She played basketball or something. And their gimmick was not sexual in any way. When you look at the beautiful people, like look at what they were doing to like the ropes and stuff. Like their gimmick was heavily sexualized and all around like being super feminine. Lay Cool was just mean girls. Like that was pretty much it. How was like just because it was two people at the same time does not mean one was a ripoff of the other. I need people to actually be able to understand characters before you start saying things are a ripoff. You know, you just can't say things are a ripoff because they're happening at the same time. I was going through like I'm not, some of y'all probably noticed that I went through my videos and I actually started sorting new things out. creating new playlists and stuff like that. And I came across a video in which people was comparing Private Party and the Street Profits because they were both black tag teams at the same time. And I forgot all about that, but people do that stuff. They were comparing Hit Row and the Acclaim because there was two black stables that had rap involved with it at the same time. It's like, bro, that one is not a ripoff of the other. Two things can exist at the same time. What would something that was like a blatant ripoff, like a clean ripoff? The Eric Young storyline and Impact right after Bryan Danielson, right after Daniel Bryan won the title, they started pushing their own undersized, bearded goat man wrestler. Like that's a ripoff. NXT doing Bloodsport or WWE doing Bloodsport, that's ripoff. Because that's basically inspired by something else. But when you have two things that are only similar in very, very surface level ways, it really don't. No, it's not a ripoff. These things are different. What about them are the same? That's what I want to know. And if you can't give me at least three things that are the same about them, and they're not surface level, then no, they're not the same. What the hell do Street Profits and the Crime Time have to do with each other? Like what do they really have to do with each other? They're two black tag teams. What is Crime Time's gimmick, and how does that relate to Street Profits' gimmick? How is those two things related? They're not. One is not a ripoff of the other. That's like saying the Primetime Players are a ripoff of Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson because they're two black wrestlers on a tag team. That's stupid. Now, Demolition is definitely a ripoff of the Road Warriors. Definitely. Because when Demolition, for starters, they didn't exist before the Road Warriors showed up. Second, Vince took some guys who had already existed, already had gimmicks and stuff, and he bring in new guys. And he added things to them to basically create the same image that you would get with the Road Warriors. The face paint, the Road Warriors had the spikes, they had the studs. It was more BDSM when it comes to Demolition. And then you had that it was basically, Legion of Doom, of course, had the advantage of being younger guys, and they didn't really know how to work. By Demolition were older guys who kind of did know how to work. But when you look at the two gimmicks, they were similar, very similar gimmicks. The monosyllabic names, Hawk, Crush, Animal, Axe. You get that kind of thing. It was clearly a ripoff. A lot of groups clearly ripped off the Rock and Roll Express. With the tassels and the long flowing hair and the rock music. Like the Midnight Rockers, for instance. There's quite a few tag teams that ripped off the Rock and Roll Express. And you can go by, just going towards like the whole Teen Beat thing, everybody trying to sell like Ricky Morton. We can do that stuff. There's been clear ripoffs in wrestling. And then there's been things that are similar, but they are not the same. There are things that are, for instance, how many people have tried to rip off Kane? Like numerous people have tried to rip off the Kane gimmick. There's some guy running around right now calling himself Blue Kane. And people are just trying to blow smoke up his ass. It's like this guy exists as a parody of somebody else. No different than the Blue Meanie when he used to do parody gimmicks. Like you're gonna get bored with that eventually. We've already seen all this stuff done already. Top Dog says, I remember that people saying DX was a ripoff of the NWO. People say that all the time. People have always said that the rip, and that's because DX and the NWO have the same roots, which is the Clique. The Clique exists in both of them. It was two members of the Clique started the NWO, two members of the Clique started DX. So of course there's going to be some crossover between those two because all four of them were friends. So they have like some of the similar hand signals and stuff like that, but the gimmicks were different. The NWO was an invading force into WCW. The DX was a rebellion to the old system of WWF that was supposed to be family-friendly children's entertainment. That was what it was generally supposed to be. And then DX would come in and they would add more teenage humor, more vulgarity, etc. They weren't invaders. They were on the roster, regular roster guys who, and it appeared to everybody that Shawn Michaels was losing his mind because Shawn was, was sweet. Well, he wasn't exactly a sweetheart baby face in 95, 96, but he was definitely a different beast in 97 and 98. But people say that stuff all the time, man. Every faction is some kind of ripoff of the Four Horsemen. It's like the Four Horsemen was a very unique gimmick. It's okay. Two things can be similar or the same, or it can even be in competition. You could have a lemon lime flavored drink, and then somebody else creates a lemon lime flavored drink. That's a ripoff. But sometimes people just take things and they take it too far because they want to be able to denigrate one side or the other. And since we're talking about ripoffs right now, you might as well get into LA Knight. We're going to jump the whole thing. I'm going to get his response to people saying that he's ripping off The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, aka comparisons. Yeah, the Goldberg and Steve Austin thing, that made no sense. It's just two guys who were bald at the same time. The gimmicks were completely different. People liked those two characters for completely different reasons. Two guys who are bald at the same time. Oh my goodness, it must be a ripoff. I never seen Goldberg drink a can of beer at all, period. I never seen Goldberg, attack the bosses in WCW for no reason. I never seen Goldberg. Well, did he ever hog tie anybody? Did he ever put a gun to somebody's head? Did he ever invade somebody's house? Like Stone Cold Steve Austin was a completely different character than Goldberg. Goldberg was a completely different character than Stone Cold Steve Austin. They just had a similar look. That's how you know the level of analysis people are willing to put into things is very, very minimal. Very minimal. Like I don't even see how you get from here to here outside of just not knowing anything about the two parties. You just look at them and all of a sudden, oh yeah, those things are like the same. It's like, okay, but if you know more about them than to just look at them, you know that they're not the same. And there's nothing about them that is the same. Or there's not enough about them that is the same. There's always going to be some similarities. I mean, it is pro wrestling. And pro wrestling is a copycat business. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a copycat business for sure. But not everything is a ripoff of something else. It's not even a fair comparison. Half the time people don't even think about things. Hank, come on. We're not even going to entertain this Hangman Page stuff. WG Phil says, hey, what do you check out the Fight Forever receptions? The AEW game that tried to fit all 4 different games into one, like No Mercy. Here Comes the Pain, Mario Party, and now Fortnite. I have no idea what's going on. Every time I see a clip of that game, somebody's doing something weird on that game. It's like blood everywhere and glitches and stuff like that. But I'm not really following it, so I don't really know what's going on with their game. It just really occurred to me today that they don't really they're not really seeming to market the game much. Like somebody mentioned like the lack of commercials for it. Like there's commercials for the game, but it's not like a lot of commercials for the game. And considering they spent, I think they said $10 million on the game, I would think they would have spent a lot more money marketing the game. But I don't know. Like I don't even know what the sales are. Like what the sales, like what they started with. I'll figure that out. I say give it about a year, and then we'll start talking about how it sold and everything. Let's let Christmas pass. let's let Christmas pass a little bit. But let's talk about ripoffs. So LA Knight talked to Ariel Helwani, and he said, quote, people are always going to make comparisons. It's the easiest thing for people to do. If you have something that's familiar to you and here's this new entity, all right, well, I could compare it to. So that I can make it more familiar to me. That's fine. Whatever you need to do, go ahead and do it. I am me. I am the one, the only. I'm LA Knight. Then he says, he went on to, the article says, he went on to describe how Austin and The Rock were his bread and butter in high school. He spoke on how much he watched both men and how he even owned the Stone Cold, because Stone Cold said so, and The Rock says VHS tapes. I have the DVD versions of these things. Quote, those were the guys that I wanted to be when I was 16, 17 years old. My normal speech pattern every day when I'm talking to you is probably somehow derived from them. Whether that's purposeful or not is definitely not. So it's just the fact that I sat there and watched every single episode of Monday Night Raw. I had the little VHS cassette tapes. I watched all that stuff. You're talking about formative years, very moldable years. So maybe in some way I've just penetrated my brain. Whether you want to make the comparisons, hey, I'll tell you what. Let's make this comparison. You want to say that I'm the Kobe to their Jordan? I'll take it. I like that response. I like that response. You know, saying that I'm the Kobe to their Jordan. I like that response. That's very good. That's a very good response. You know, like we talked a lot about people taking things from superstar Billy Graham, for instance. And it was pretty clear. Now, superstar Billy Graham, he liked to do the whole tie-dye thing and rap and all this stuff. But not everybody took everything, you know? Like, it wasn't like Hulk Hogan clearly was modeled after superstar Billy Graham, you know? Superstar Billy Graham wasn't, he wasn't the superhero Hogan was, because he was a heel for starters. So it was completely different. But you're talking about being statuesque with the muscles and everything. Okay, you know, the 24-inch pythons, Hogan stole that. The push broom mustache. I think Superstar started doing that a little bit later in his career. He started doing the push broom mustache. But Hogan also had the push broom mustache when he had longer hair. So when he actually had hair, he was already rocking the push broom mustache. The flex, he got the flex from Superstar Billy Graham. The tie dye and everything, Jesse the Body Ventura took that. Yeah, Hogan didn't do the tie dye thing until much later. Until in the 2000s, he started doing the tie dye stuff, and it was basically just his colors, the mix of the red and yellow, but that was it. But Superstar Billy Graham, like Jesse Ventura, took like the color scheme, the outlandish outfits, the big muscles and stuff like that. The way that he flexed, the rap. The Dusty took a lot of the verbiage, some of the rhyming and stuff like that. So there's people who you can be inspired by people and not be a ripoff. Everybody's inspired by somebody, for Christ's sake. Like, and most guys are not shy about who their inspirations are. And when you say that somebody is inspired by somebody else, you tend to see it. Like when I didn't know much about the Dynamite Kid, when I was young, because when the Bulldogs were at their hottest as a tag team, I was literally still pissing the bed, So I knew the British Bulldog as a solo act for most of my life. So here it comes. I'm maybe 20 some odd. I'm trying to get back into wrestling. And I'm hearing like, oh, Chris Benoit's favorite wrestler was the Dynamite Kid. Now I knew who the Dynamite Kid was, but I never really like watched him, And so when you take time to like YouTube Dynamite Kid and you actually watch him, you do see how much of Chris Benoit took from the Dynamite Kid, the diving headbutt, for instance, the way he did his suplexes, the aggressive nature in which he approached a match. A lot of that stuff was him taken from the Dynamite Kid, But Dynamite Kid was old and in a wheelchair by the time most of us knew who Chris Benoit was. Now the thing was taken from somebody like the Dynamite Kid, who was a tag team wrestler in the WWF, and unless you were like Canadian and in that territory, you really didn't have, or a really Japanese wrestling fan, you really didn't know that much about the Dynamite Kid. And then imagine taking something from like one of the most popular acts of the entire business, which is like Hulk Hogan or, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock. Like imagine taking stuff from them. People are definitely going to see it. You know, people definitely notice when you do a knockoff Ultimate Warrior. You know, like we see that. You can't get away from that one. Like you can't get away from your knockoff Ultimate Warrior. You can't see, you know, the knockoff of the Hawk and Animal. Like you can't unsee some stuff. Certain things you can see the inspirations, but you can't knock it. When people were saying like Ryback was Goldberg, it was like now that was a pretty good comparison because Ryback was pushed similar to how Goldberg was pushed. You know, beat people in 30 seconds, do two moves. That's pretty much it. Ryback's character was not fully developed, really. You know, they focused so much on the winning streak. You know, they didn't really do much. They tried to recreate Goldberg with Ryback, and it didn't work because Ryback is a shithead. Yes, I saw the video of the guy threatening Ryback. I was going to play the audio of the drunk guy from Ringside News ranting and raving about Ryback, but apparently Ringside News went and deleted all of the tweets. So something told me to record that stuff while I was listening to it. I was like, I should record this, but I chose not to. I don't care about Ringside News. It's fake to me, you know. And Ryback is a come on. I don't take anything with Ryback seriously. If I was to do Ryback stuff, I would be doing Ryback stuff all damn day, man, because he always running his mouth about something or other. Prince Ali says lots of wrestlers nowadays take from either Michaels or Hart. He'll even Flair or Malenko. The Shawn Michaels generation was very, very, very influenced by Ric Flair. You know, if you because they grew up in territory wrestling. So to them, Ric Flair was the world champion. He traveled from territory to territory, worked a similar style every night, very, very athletic. Of course, Shawn was trained by a Mexican, so he had a little bit more lucha libre, in his step. But he patterned a lot of what he did after Ric Flair, especially when he was a heel. You know, the over the top rope bump that he took all the time. He used to take that bump all the time as a Heartbreak Kid. You know, which is I know it was a Ray Stevens bump first, and Flair took it, but nobody knows that. Anyway, yeah. So you see a lot of people now they take from Shawn. You know, Shawn is the guy who probably gets a lot of people stealing from him nowadays. And I think we're just now starting to see like CM Punk and FTR do the Bret Hart thing. But for a long time, it was like Shawn Michaels ripoffs. Hella Shawn Michaels ripoffs. I couldn't stand it. I cannot stand it. The Hardy Boys too. They got a lot of ripoffs too. The Young Bucks, for instance. You know, especially during the Generation Me days. All they was missing was the girl. You know, that's all they was missing they didn't have a leader. You know, so that was they do a lot of again the business is it's all about borrowing and stealing and stuff. People do that shit all the time, man. You know, how many people had the figure four as a finisher? Once somebody got it over, a bunch of people started doing it. You know, once the DDT became a move anybody could do, a bunch of people started doing it. Like if we was to just make sure everybody was original, half the shit we see today we wouldn't see anymore. Um, so what do you do? People are always stealing, but just because somebody is stealing some stuff doesn't mean that they're a ripoff. You know, that's the thing. You can have things that are similar, but then they're not. That's not a ripoff, bro. It's like, come on. There's certain patterns though. You know, there's certain patterns of behavior, especially in WWE because they try to put people into boxes. WWE likes their boxes, their stereotypes, the all American good guy, and all that sort of stuff. Correct. Stone Mexican guy nailed it. It's not stealing, it's sampling. You remixed it, you know? You take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you remix it. You know, it's common sense. Everybody does it, you know? Everybody begs, borrows, and steals. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Look how many people walk around bleach blonde right now, you know? Why? You just be like, why is this dude bleaching his hair? What's his reason for that? But it was similar to rap, you know, like back in the days, rappers used to get on each other for stealing flows, stealing rhyme schemes, stealing patterns. But nowadays, it's cool to steal a rhyme scheme, steal a pattern, even steal bars if you that's what you want. You know, it's a completely different ball game. The sampling used to be they used to tell the old heads, stop. The old heads would yell, "Stop sampling my record! It's stealing my bass line." And now the old rap heads are now telling the young boys, "Stop stealing my lyrics." You know, stop taking my lyrics. You know, stop sampling my voice. I'll never forget KRS-One got mad at Nelly for sampling his song. It's like, are you serious? What the fuck? You made your whole career off of borrowing from people. Now you're tight assed about Nelly borrowing from you. Come on, get over it. And the same thing in wrestling, man. It's like, how can you get mad at people for being inspired by you? Now, if you're still doing stuff, okay. But all this Sergeant Slaughter, him being upset about Lacey Evans, it's like, dude, you're not wrestling anymore. You're not wrestling anymore. Nobody will pay to see Sergeant Slaughter wrestle, so who cares if she used the Cobra Clutch? Who gives a fuck, really? Honestly, who cares? You know? Dirty Dutch man tell it, bro, you old and retired. Who cares at this point, bro? Like, it's over. I don't want to. Is Dick Slater going to come out of nowhere and say, hey, they stole Dirty from me? No. You know, it's over, man. As many nature boys was running around here in this business, and we got the audacity to get mad because somebody used a similar nickname. You know, it was crazy. It wasn't. It wasn't really even that. I'll tell you one that's even more petty. When he was using the RKO, and it looked too much like the Diamond Cutter, and Diamond Dallas Page went. I think he sent a letter to Randy or something like that, asking him to vary the move up more. It's like, bro, you didn't even create that move. That's John Laurinaitis' move. And John Laurinaitis works in WWE. And if he's okay with Randy doing it, then where do you come from? Oh, Lord have mercy, bro. I get it though. DDP was still wrestling at the time. You know, he was, I think, doing shots for TNA, maybe doing some independent stuff. So I get it. He didn't want people, you know, doing the diamond cutter. But it's not like he created the move. He didn't create the diamond cutter. He didn't create the ace crusher. It was so dumb. But WWE stops guys from doing similar stuff too. Like Shelton Benjamin used to do the stinger splash, and they stopped him from doing it. I think the same thing was the Randy Orton thing with he used to do the angle slam. I think they told him to stop doing it. Sometimes the company will step in and tell guys to stop doing stuff like that. Because I remember Shelton Benjamin talked about it. He used to do the stinger splash, and he said people in WWE asked him not to do it anymore. Uh, Look, I think Sting was still wrestling at the time, so they kind of told him to chill. He was wrestling in TNA. This was back when Shelton was hot. You know, he was doing the stinger splash. But you know, like when Carlito started doing the lung blower, you know, the little knees to the back, I started seeing everybody do it. You know, like how many people started doing like Three Amigos after Eddie Guerrero? You know, everybody started doing it. Frog splash too. I don't remember there being that many frog splashes in wrestling when I was a kid. You know, when I was a kid, there was really only Eddie was doing the frog splash and Rob Van Dam, you know, was doing the frog splash. That was really it. You know, and then I might see Booker T and Two Cold Scorpio do the Harlem Hangover. I forgot what Two Cold Scorpio called it. Oh yeah, D'Lo did it too. D'Lo did it later though. Yeah. D'Lo had a frog splash too. Yeah, I forgot about that. But those were like the only 3 people that was doing frog splashes. Now everybody does a frog splash. It's like the DDT has been perverted. Everybody does frog splashes. Everybody do elbow smashes now too. When I was young, it wasn't that many people doing flying elbow drops. Sean did it. Of course, Macho Man did it. And then occasionally you would see Bret Hart do an elbow drop, but it would be an elbow drop, not an elbow smash, like from the top rope. He'd do an elbow drop from the second rope. So, and now you see people do it flying elbow drops all the time. Very rarely are they using it as a finish. Almost never as a finish. But it's one of those things, man, where everybody borrows from everybody. And then if somebody dies, they do it in they do that move or whatever in remembrance. Like everybody starts doing the Doomsday Device now. I still get salty when I still when I see the Doomsday Device used in in a match. Like people doing the Doomsday Device on the floor. Like, come on, man. Like, what? They're starting to do the Steiner Bulldog thing too now. I really wish they wouldn't. But they're doing it anyway. Oh, I don't get it. The double drop kick, that was always a thing that was, and now that's kind of evolved into the double super kick. They don't do a drop. People don't do drop kicks anymore. Very few people do drop kicks now. They only do drop kicks on those goofy spots where everybody's supposed to be like, I duck you, you duck me, we do a drop kick, and then we get up and look at each other like, oh, we were thinking the same thing. That's stupid. I hate that became a new thing too, that everybody started ripping off. And that's why the new thing that people are claiming is that the kick out at 1. They're saying that, oh, AEW made that popular. And I think somebody did it in a WWE match. They did a kick out at 1. Like, that's never been done before. It's never been done that people have kicked out at 1. It's like, what? The Canadian Destroyer. The Code Red is another one. I'm seeing too many of those. So many Canadian Destroyers. Just so many Canadian Destroyers. For Christ's sake. It's just so many. It's so dumb. It's awful. It's awful. The amount of Canadian Destroyers we see in wrestling is way too many. But we're getting off to now repetitive moves, and we were talking about ripoffs. So LA Knight, saying that he takes some of his speech pattern from The Rock and Steve Austin shouldn't be a surprise. Shouldn't also either be a problem, because really, neither one of those guys are wrestling anymore. Why do anybody care, really? I don't get it, personally. I think he does a good job. If you're going to be somewhat of a knockoff for somebody, at least be a good one. That's all I can ask, is that you be a good one. All right. Let's talk about Jon Moxley, who wants to be Terry Funk in the worst way in the world. He did an interview for Sports Illustrated. It says, Jon Moxley has a whole dissertation on why blood belongs in pro wrestling. We're going to skip to the part where he's talking about blood. I don't care what the hell he's talking about. He's talking about El Desperado or whatever. I don't see how that got anything to do with who cares? I'm not watching this match with Desperado. I don't care. I like Desperado. He's cool. He looks cool. But I have no interest in watching him wrestle Jon Moxley. They're just going to stab each other in the head with stuff. And I already know it. So Moxley says, I have a whole dissertation on my theory about blood in modern wrestling. Do we have time for that? And he said, this is a combat sport. College wrestling is a combat sport too. They have blood timeouts to patch it up. The lowest prelim bout of a UFC card or a boxing card, somebody might have a little blood on their eyebrow or blood coming out of their nose. But they're not selling a blood sport. It's not tune in for the blood, tune in for the gore. It's part of the aesthetic. It adds realism. Sometimes when I don't even want to, he bleeds. But I only know one speed. That's with my foot on the gas pedal. And if we're going to do something, let's fucking do it. that can be detrimental when it comes to negative things like drugs or alcohol. But that's my mindset. If I'm doing it, I'm doing it. When it comes to blood, it's just going to happen sometimes. Like I said, it's foot to the gas pedal. Some people say this is just a random match. Why is there blood? I heard that last week versus Tomohiro Ishii. He's one of the greatest of all time. I'm not going to let that moment slip by. I'm going foot to the fucking gas pedal. How could I not? Then I hear that I can't have a good match without blood. Okay, then you made my argument for me. I'll do it every time. So let's pause right here because apparently he's not done. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Moxley is right. All right, Moxley is right. If wrestling is supposed to be a simulated combat sport, there should be blood. If you're going to be punching each other in the head, somebody should bleed. If you're going to be throwing headbutts, running people's heads into ring posts, running people's heads into the announce tables, there should be blood. There should be blood if there's going to be a fight. There should be blood. I agree with that. I can't argue with that logic. That's good. That's good logic right there. You know. My brother was watching Rampage Jackson versus Forrest Griffin for the light heavyweight title. It's an old UFC fight. He likes watching old UFC. That's his favorite. Like he loves UFC, but his favorite is the old stuff. And you watched the fight, and Rampage lost the fight, but there wasn't a cut on him. Not one cut. He was barely winded. And you go over to Forrest Griffin, and he looks like hollowed out hamburger. I'm talking bleeding, face all mushed up. He looks like Little Mac after you lose a fight and punch out. But he won the fight. Points or whatever. And you say, like, okay, one of these men look like he's been in a fight. The other one doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. And then you say, okay, well, it can happen that you're a Rampage Jackson kind of guy where you lose, but you don't have a scratch or a cut or a bruise on you, at least not on your upper body. But it's more likely that if you're in the middle of a slugfest, you're going to come out looking like Forrest Griffin. You're going to have puffy parts of your face, and you're going to be down bad. So if that's Moxley's dissertation on blood, I can't say that he's wrong. Now, he's not done talking about why it's necessary that you bleed. But he's not wrong. I can say that if it's supposed to be a simulated fight, there should be blood. I can't disagree with that. Let's see what he says. The point of the dissertation is that this is a combat sport. We're not allowed to have blood in a match unless it's personal grudge. We're only allowed to have blood after a 5-month grudge, after somebody slept with somebody's wife or ran somebody over with a car. And then, and only then, are we allowed to have this dramatic crimson mask that looks the exact same every single time. For me, realism-wise, since this is a combat sport, that means there is the potential for blood in every match. Everything in wrestling is preposterous to some degree, but this helps with the suspension of disbelief. I'm actually for less blood, but more often. If every match on the card had a busted eyebrow or a bloody nose, it would just be part of the sport. But some gory spectacle with blood shooting like a hose is pretty unnecessary. We're elbowing each other in the face every single match. We're kicking each other in the face every single match. What are these people made of if they're not bleeding? This is, I'm telling you, he stumbled onto something that is really, he's not wrong. Like he's absolutely not wrong. It's like watching, the X-Men animated series and come here, bub. And, Wolverine pops the claws, but he never uses them. Nobody ever bleeds on those shows. Nobody ever fires bullets on those shows. So it's like watching wrestling without people, getting knots and black eyes and broken noses and stuff. He's right. And even he conceded a little bit by saying less blood, but more often. Meaning, if there was a way for you to work a busted lip, if there was a way for you to work a bloody nose, if there was a way for you to work a cut above the eyebrow, he would be for that. And I can say I would be for that too. Am I for gushers every night? No. Am I for Abdullah the Butcher stab you in the forehead every night? No. Am I for Devon Dudley or Dusty Rose with the scar tissue across the forehead? Absolutely not. But if you're trying to sell a simulated fight, he's got a point. The motherfucker is right. He's right. I don't know how you can argue with it. He's making a good point. The guy's smart. He knows more than he's willing to to let on. He continues, people ask why there is blood in the ring every time I have it. It feels unnatural to go out of my way to make sure there is no one bleeding. That feels like taking my foot off the gas pedal. That doesn't interest me. Wow. That's tremendous. That's tremendous. I like this. That was good. I don't want to read the rest of this. But his dissertation on why there must be blood was pretty good. And I have a difficult time disagreeing with him. We always say that wrestling looks incredibly fake when guys are doing 630 moonsaults or whatever, and a dude just lays there and let it happen. But there is something saying, hey, if you're punching each other in the face, somebody should bleed. And Moxley's going to be the guy who's going to bleed. He's going to take it there. But Crossface commentary is correct too. By bleeding during promos and gigging pretty much in every goddamn match, it does lose its value. Because in wrestling, which is different from real fighting, we actually look at it in terms of blood, or what they say, red equals green. Blood is only for grudges. If somebody makes you bleed, you go to war with them. But Moxley is basically trivializing it to a degree, to the point of, well, if you get into a fight in the street, and you catch one in the lip, you're likely to have a fat lip, busted lip, might lose a tooth, might get scratched across the eyebrow if somebody throws an elbow, which is true in real fighting. It's true in fighting in the street, fighting in UFC, fighting in boxing. But in wrestling, the blood symbolizes something different. And that's the best argument you can make against him, is that in wrestling, the blood is supposed to sell something to the audience. It's not supposed to be trivial. It's not supposed to be the idea that we're fighting, and in a fight, somebody could bleed. It is the idea that we are in the middle of something really serious because now we're bleeding. It's not competitive anymore now that I'm bleeding. It's like blood brings a lot of things, sympathy in wrestling. You don't feel too sympathetic about a boxer or a UFC fighter who's bleeding and busted up. There's not a lot of sympathy there. But in pro wrestling, blood brings a tremendous amount of sympathy. Think about Stone Cold Steve Austin when he was in that sharpshooter. Bleeding, blood dripping all from his face. You see that this guy has been through a war. They're talking about how the blood is in his eyes and it's so difficult for him to fight. Then the blood loss actually adds to the story, because then the blood loss causes him to pass out and he loses. Think about, I don't know how many of you saw the Ted DiBiase angle with, I think it was Dick Murdoch. Was it Dick Murdoch? And Ric Flair, where Ted DiBiase was a heel and he was going to wrestle Ric Flair for the world title, and I think it was Dick Murdoch who asked him to step aside, and DiBiase said no, so Dick Murdoch rams his head against the ring post, busted him wide open. Ted DiBiase wrestled Ric Flair even though he was bleeding. Got tremendous amount of sympathy, turned him babyface. There is a tremendous amount of sympathy that's attached to blood in wrestling. The Midnight Rockers versus Playboy Buddy Rose and Doug Summers. not Triple A, AWA. They did like a bloodbath where the Midnight Rockers got their asses kicked and they were busted open and bleeding. They were teeny bopper wrestlers. You know, the rip-offs of the Rock and Roll Express. You know, here they were getting beat up, beat bloody. People still felt tremendous sympathy for them. That's it's a useful tool. You know, it's a very useful tool. And you do trivialize it when you do it all the time. That said, Moxley's position is pretty damn good. You know, his dissertation on blood is pretty damn good. You know, I'm very interested in what like Jim Cornette's going to say about it. I'm very interested in his philosophy and how he's going to counter the usually bad wrestling takes of Jon Moxley. This is a good one. You know, I'm pretty sure he'll have a response to it by next week's live stream, and so we'll probably go through it then. Then I may make a supercut video about it with this part, and then the review from Jim Cornette. All right, we're an hour in. What else did I say we were going to do? I think we did everything I said we were going to do. Oh yeah, John Cena. Let's talk about this John Cena UK wrestling thing. I think this is the last thing we got. I need to. I'm gonna wrap this one up short today because I'm sweaty and I got to turn off all the air conditioners and fans and everything in order to do this video. Even though the audio is now already not that great, you know, having the fan whirling in the background wouldn't help. Okay, so the BBC went to the MPs to talk about WrestleMania in London. It says WrestleMania, so it's fair to say superstar John Cena stunned British fans when he turned up in London to call for the WWE's flagship show to come to the UK. It says Alex Davies Jones is the co-chair of the All-Parliamentary Group on Wrestling and says legendary grappler turned Hollywood actor Cena's appearance was a real shock. Nobody predicted John Cena coming out and announcing the possibility of a WrestleMania in the UK, she says to the BBC Newsbeat. It was utterly incredible and got the whole place buzzing with excitement about the possibilities of what that could mean for wrestling fans, but also for the UK economy and also for future fans as well. When Triple H was mentioned about this, he says, never say never. He says, but it's a lot more difficult than it appears. Alex, who's Labour MP Pontypridd in Wales, says it's definitely something they'll be working on. I would love for it to happen, she says. The APPG have been talking about how we can help to make that happen and whatever we can in terms of facilitating some conversations. Alex says wrestling in the UK is having a, quote, great resurgence and points to the AEW, another wrestling company, bringing their first show outside North America to Wembley Stadium in August. She continues, whatever we can do to make the UK attractive to host wrestling on the world stage, we are more than happy to facilitate. We would use our contact and negotiating skills to try to reach out to WWE, making conversations happen to try and promote the UK as a premier destination for world-class wrestling. Wow. So, that's interesting. Now, here's the thing about this this Alex Davies person from the APPG or whatever it's called. I think it was last year. No, it was 2 years ago, actually, where they did some digging into British pro wrestling. I don't know if you guys remember this. I did a video on it. I kind of forgot about it. Didn't go back to it. But they went into some suggestions. And one of the suggestions to help British pro wrestling was for them to create some kind of union, it sounded like, because they were concerned about pay. So I'm trying to find where like the exact language. But with that person being involved, I am not a fan of WrestleMania in London. Look, WWE, of course, is not a British organization, but who knows what the hell might happen if you start a union. I don't see why they would, but I don't see how you're really helping things. It seems like they're giving a history lesson on British pro wrestling. So they're talking about some of the WWE collections in this white paper they put out. It says, we did receive some, albeit limited, feedback on the impact of what was said to be increasing globalization on the British industry. Certainly, witnesses were aware of the role WWE has played in partnering with or swallowing up, as one submission characterized it, large UK wrestling companies, independent companies. There were differing opinions on the extent to which WWE partnership benefited the industry in the UK. Some thought standards, particularly at shows featuring WWE contracted talent, has been raised, that there were more opportunities for UK talent both in training and career opportunities, and that WWE and others helped draw fans from TV to independent live events. Others thought that the perceived or real prohibitions on talent performing across the UK, including in certain types of matches, quote, intergender, or on stream shows which draw money for UK promotions, or supporting brand promotions at odds with WWE, allegedly in breach of previous guarantees to the contrary, were detrimental to the industry. However, this alleged talent grab did allow, and said one witness, for rising prospects to receive opportunities. For ICW, which works with WWE, the ICW deal is over, by the way. It ended in, I think, earlier this year. WWE partnership benefits were significant. We were told the company has enabled full-time jobs for 30 to 40 people in the UK who are paying off mortgages and saving for pensions. This was, quote, unthinkable when we started. There was obviously previously no, quote, direct route from Glasgow to WWE. Now there is, from the GPWA, the Glasgow Pro Wrestling Asylum, to ICW to NXT UK, where you can get trained by the greatest professional wrestlers. They scouting talent, the Scottish talent, then train the locals. How can that be deemed a bad thing? So that's interesting. I should have read this before. I just remembered that I had it in here. But they're basically just talking about British wrestling and the impacts of the global pandemic. I'm looking for the specific language of the specific things that I wanted to talk about, but I'm not seeing it. I'm skimming through this thing. So they're talking about the pandemic in here, because this was what this whole thing was about. But this was a really good paper. Like, if you're interested in wrestling, it's and especially wrestling in the UK, they give a decent history lesson, the impact of WWE, the local markets, stuff like this. So it's really good at the time. It was written in like 2021 too. Okay, so it says Chapter 4, Part 2, Pay and Employee Rights. Equity, as we have previously referenced, is a trade union representing over 4,800 people, 48,000, I'm sorry, people from various professions, and which boasts decades of experience representing wrestlers, some of which reportedly joined for stunt work or acting work that arose from their wrestling career. Since late 2015, the union has sought to organize and support wrestlers. This includes the aforementioned accident insurance benefits. However, the union said that there was no collective bargaining and a reluctance from promoters to offer formal recognition. This chimes what we were told by one promoter about Equity's efforts. Some promoters said some promoters won't work with you if you are a member of Equity. However, in this case of Pro Wrestling Eve, it did offer to provide access to union and, in fact, commendably, cover the cost of joining, agreed a code of conduct including terms and conditions, a template contract, and a dignity at work policy on a trial basis with a view to revising it in early 2020. Other promotions, Riot Cabaret and Revolution Pro, followed suit, but these are now all on hold owing to the pandemic. So they started talking about unions, more about unions. This is very interesting because not knowing much about the United Kingdom market, it's very interesting. But WrestleMania in London, these people, well, this particular MP, she's very passionate about pro wrestling. She created an entire organization to write that paper on pro wrestling just a year or two ago. So she loves wrestling and she wants, the Europeans or the UK government to be able to get more of it. How much money is she willing to cough up to get WrestleMania in London? That's the good question. That's the question. Everybody, now the pressure is on. Vince and all of them have said we're willing to do it if you're willing to pay for it. The earliest they would be able to do it would be like 2 or 3 years out, I think. They wouldn't be able to do it before 2025. Because I think next year's WrestleMania is already sewn up, but I think the year after is already sewn up. Crossface Commentary says, what's one place WWE has not been that you think they should go? That's a really good question. I would say, because you have to think about it, like a lot of places, it would be great, but you wonder if they could actually support a wrestling show. So it would be nice to have like somewhere in Ghana or Nigeria. It'd be nice to have it in Jamaica, to have a wrestling show in Jamaica. But can the local economy support it is the question. Do they have, I think they have soccer stadiums, so they have venues. But it's like, can the local economy support the whole thing? Can the local government cough up enough money to cover the travel and is the fans ready for crazy time differences? There's a lot of stuff there. But if they was to like have like a WrestleMania in a soccer stadium in like Nigeria or something like that, that shit would bang. If they was to have like, or in Spain somewhere, France or something, that would bang. I still think they don't do it. Like they're doing a Mexico thing in a couple of weeks. They're going to be doing a super show in Mexico. Why they've never done like a live pay-per-view from Mexico? That seemed like should have been a no-brainer. Run Arena Mexico for a big pay-per-view event. Headlined by Rey Mysterio. Maybe put his mask on the line. That would be huge. Like imagine if they did, and they still probably plan to do Dominic versus Rey, mask versus hair. Imagine if they save that for when they run like an Arena Mexico show. And it's going to be like, I don't know, No Mercy or something like that. Just some B pay-per-view. But the top of the card is going to be Rey versus Dominic, mask versus hair. I think they would sell that bitch out. And I think it'd be crazy. You probably wouldn't be able to run WrestleMania there. But like a B show, oh yeah. Oh yeah. You'd be able to do that pretty easily. Now, considering Triple H likes to focus on local talent when he go out, overseas, that's why Butch was in the Money in the Bank ladder match. He had no business being in there. And Zelina Vega got a title shot in Puerto Rico, all that kind of stuff. What talent do you have that you could put on top in like a weird place like Nigeria? You don't have it. Top, like it had to be Kofi Kingston, wouldn't it? And he would be the closest because he's Ghanaian. But other than that, you really wouldn't have anybody, to put on. It had to be somebody black, I guess. But that would really be the problem. Like if you was to run a show in Jamaica, who would you put on top? Like what Jamaican wrestler is? You have to have SOS Kofi Kingston. Yeah, man. Oh yeah, I forgot about Omos. I forgot he was still there. I forgot he was still there. He's Nigerian. Oh, he is Nigerian. Yeah, he is. Yeah, the big Nigerian. Yep. You can run Omos in the main event. Triple H ain't used Omos much though. He used them a couple of times, but he's benched them now. So yeah, Commander Aziz is Nigerian, and Apollo Crews is the son of Nigerian immigrants. So I guess you got what 3 or 4 guys, but you've been treating them like shit on TV for a long time. You've been treating them like shit on TV for a long time, so it will come back to bite you in the ass in a major way. I don't think people would care though. You know, hometown hero, guy who might, his grandparents might still be there or something like that. That'd be big for them. I say it'd be a local economy issue. Well, I forgot about Omas, to be honest. Damn. Where is that? Is he hurt? Or is he Triple H just not using him? Is he working like main event or something? I don't know. But I like the idea of shows in crazy locales. I just, not a big fan of the time difference. You know, like if they used to run like a pay per view in Japan, you have to get up at like 4 in the morning in order to watch it without it getting spoiled. Who the hell wants to do that? I don't. Like that's the killer right there. Like watching Money in the Bank in the middle of the day was fine. WrestleMania at 3 o'clock in the afternoon would be cool. But you telling me I got to get up at 3:30 in the morning because you want to have it in France or something like that? Nah, I don't know about that one, dog. I don't know about that one. You know, that's just gonna get spoiled for me, dog. I don't know. But again, they're putting all the pressure on the government in London to get WrestleMania there to bid more. So they may beat WrestleMania there. They may run AEW may run Wembley again next year. And maybe do it 2 or 3 times before WrestleMania get there. You know, yeah, Hawaii might be a really good show, especially with the Samoan wrestlers. Hawaii might actually be pretty okay. I think it's similar issue. Do they have venue? Can the local economies, support it? Because Polynesian pro wrestling was pretty popular over there, and for WWE to have like top Polynesians, you would think that they would have more Hawaiian shows, which would have been. You think they do more shows in Japan and Mexico than they do. Very strange that it's a global promotion, but they try to keep it special for the international audiences. They don't run them that often. Like you very rarely hear about WWE running in Spain or Germany, but they have fans there. But they don't exactly go there. But I wouldn't be surprised if some other Arab country doesn't step in, like and start paying for wrestling too. Like once the Saudis start getting in on it, like I expect. There's a company that I forget what country it is. Is it Oman, Omar, whatever? Qatar, I think it is. Qatar. They pay for pro wrestling to come over to them, or I think they have their own promotion. Yeah, they have their own pro wrestling in Qatar. There's another wrestling promotion too. It's in that same area. But I also wonder like why they never ran in Israel. But I know Israel was like a legit like completely dangerous all the time. Dubai. That's what I was thinking of. Dubai, Qatar, why they don't run more Middle East stuff over there. So that'd be fine. It would be interesting for me. All right, y'all. I'm burning up. I'm hot. I'm sweaty. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.